everybody. Heather Gray here from ChooseToHaveItAll.com. I'm trying out a new little trick with Facebook Live here, so you're going to have to let me know what you think about it. Up until like the past couple of days or so, Facebook has only allowed us to go live through our cell phones, which is required and looked a little wonky. And today it's allowing us to go live for desktop. So it's my first day trying this. I really love your feedback as to which you prefer, if the view is easier and more accessible for you from your phones, or if the desktop version is more pleasant to look at. It's a little strange for me when I do it on my cell phone because I'm looking at myself as if I'm taking a selfie, but here on the desktop I can just look at the camera and kind of ignore the view of me talking to myself from below. But in any case, those of you who don't know me, my name's Heather Gray. I'm an executive coach and corporate therapist over at ChooseToHaveItAll.com. I've been working with people in my community for the past week or so on setting ourselves up for success with this New Year's resolution time. I kind of started as a little mini rant of mine. I'm not really a fan of resolutions in general because I think they set people up to fail. We get goals and aspirations and we start thinking about who we want to be and what we want our lives to be like, but we never really are given a specific plan on how to do that. So what I did is I developed a free course that people are taking for this week, and you're welcome to join me. I'll put a link below the video in the comments. But basically, I'm hoping to teach you the tips and strategies and tools you need to set you up for success, whatever goal you might be having for yourself. So yesterday we talked about the fact that your goals really need to be aligned with who you are and how you want to move through the world and what you want your life to be like. Because if you create a goal for yourself that is inconsistent with who you are and how you move through the world, you kind of set yourself up to fail before you've even begun. But that being said, it's okay, because I think a lot of times people do set really big aspirational goals, particularly in the new year when they're trying new things. And it's fine to want a whole new life, but to recognize that if you're making big goals and setting yourself up for huge leaps, then you have to still pay attention to the small steps and the small achievements along the way. Otherwise, I think, again, you end up setting yourself up to fail. And it's super important to me that I teach all of you how you set yourselves up for success with this. So today for day 2, there's just one word you need to get used to using and learning and saying if you want to be successful in 2017 with whatever resolution you've set up for yourself. And that one word is no. If you want to be successful, if you want to put yourself on your own list, if you want your goals and dreams to come true for yourself in your life in 2017, that means you're going to have to start saying no to other people. There's no way around it. I think that's actually the reason why a lot of people do fail, is because they're hesitant to say no. They're afraid of the conflict that's bound to pop up because of it. They worry about disappointing other people, or they worry that the thing that's most important to them isn't a reason enough or a big enough deal to put themselves on the list for, or isn't a good enough reason to say no. So they say yes to someone else's need and someone else's desire over their own, and then pretty soon they've given themselves away. The trick here is to really think about the fact that saying no simply is never easy. If we're saying no, we're telling somebody at some point that something is more important to us than they are, or their need is, or what they want to have happen. And that's just unavoidable. And you have to push through that feeling, because it's not until you push through that uncomfortable feeling of saying no, of disappointing somebody, of putting yourself first, that you get to the other side of that, and you get the ability to feel what it feels like when you do put yourself on the list. Yesterday, one of the members of my community, for example, talked about how her husband's going to help her take the kids every once in a while so she can have more time for the things that she cares about. And that's absolutely a fantastic way to set yourself up for success. But if a friend or a sister or a family member says, hey, I hear you don't have the kids today, would you like to grab lunch? Then suddenly she's caught, right? Like, she has this opportunity to have one-on-one time with another adult that she cares about or is close to, but she also said that to herself that she wanted time for herself and for the things that she cares about. The only way this works is if we learn to say no to the things that other people suggest so we can stay dialed in and focused on the things we care about most. Otherwise, we just keep compromising ourselves, and each time we do that, we're telling ourselves that the thing that we said is more important to us for this entire year is a little less important than someone else's request for ourselves. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of weird doing Facebook Live on desktop. I can't see people's comments as easily. Um, but basically, I want you to start thinking a little bit about the fact that if you want your goals to happen, if you want to feel better today than you did yesterday, the truth of the matter is you're gonna might have to feel a little bit worse first, because people are always going to ask something of ourselves. Somebody's always going to come with a need or a favor or something they want. And in order to have the life we want and to move through the world more consistently with who we are and the way we want our lives to be, we simply have to get better and more consistent at saying no. And sometimes I think what ends up happening is people avoid saying no simply because they don't know how. So one of the things that I like to do sometimes is offer sample scripts. And in today's email, those of you who are in this course also get the email. You'll get an email with some sample scripts, but I thought I would just take some time to give you some quick examples now where you know, like to just kind of walk you through what you want to do. So the thing to think about is if you're telling someone no, you want to recognize their disappointment. You want to recognize that whatever they're asking is important to them, but also recognize that they might be important to you. So tell them that. I think so often we muddy up communication rather than just keeping it simple and telling people what we want them to think. So you want to say, hey, listen, I know it would really help you out if I came and helped you clean out your attic next week, but I got to tell you that I finally have 3 hours scheduled to myself where I can really get my own project done. And I'm sorry to disappoint you, but if I put this project off one more time, I'm disappointing myself, and I really need to do this. I think so often we worry about why we're saying no, and we tell ourselves that it's not a good enough reason to say no. But if we're just clear with the other person about the no, why it's important to us, they sometimes are more understanding of it. Now, granted, they're not always going to agree, and some people might judge you or push back on it or question your goals, and that's going to happen because people sometimes are selfish and more self-absorbed than we wish they would be. But that doesn't mean it's not a reason to say no. The double negative sometimes just kind of trips me up, huh? But it's recognizing that people don't have to understand your why. They don't have to understand or agree with what's important to you. They just have to understand that something's important to you. And you have to understand that they get to be disappointed. And it doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that you've chosen badly, that you have a superficial, silly goal. It just means that the things that are important to you might not be aligned to the person you're talking to, and that's okay. One of the examples that comes up for me and my husband a lot is we tend to be pretty low-key people, particularly like on the weekdays. We don't really like to socialize on a weeknight. From when I was a full-time therapist, I used to be exhausted at the end of the day. My new coaching business is way more energizing and far less draining for me, but I still don't really like to socialize at night. And likewise, on the weekends, I always need some downtime. I need time to do the chores in a more relaxed manner. I like to make a good Sunday meal. And my husband needs downtime too. So on Sundays, we tend to just stick to ourselves. Because we don't like to socialize on the weeknights and we like home time on Sundays, that really leaves only Saturday to be social with people. And not all of our friends understand that, and not all of our friends support us in that, and that's totally okay. If they don't get it because they prefer to move through the world more socially with seeing people more regularly and having more dinners, that's okay. And if our needs and their needs and friendships start to misalign so much that it causes conflict, then we can look at that. But I don't look for anybody to understand or recognize why I need that amount of downtime. What's more important is that I know myself enough to know that I'm an irritable pain in the neck when I don't get it. So I owe it to myself to take it. And then likewise, I communicate to people, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. And it's okay if you don't understand it, but I hope because you love and accept me that you'll understand this. And sometimes that's all it takes, is communicating to the person your need right now, whatever it is you're asking of me, is kind of in contradiction with who I am, how I move through the world, or simply what I need for myself right now. Today is not a good day. Tomorrow might be a better day, or something like that. But if you communicate the entire thing and you tell the person you care about every part of this, of what you're thinking, why you're saying no, why it's important to you, and if you're willing to be flexible and reschedule, it keeps the relationship intact, but it also keeps your need the priority. This isn't always going to work, and I get that. Life happens. I've seen life happen in my own life 50 million times. Last year, my husband was sick for a good part of the year, and I was saying no to a lot of things because my energy got sapped taking care of him. But sometimes, it's just going to be your regular everyday, and that's going to be a challenge. And that's okay for it to be hard for you, but having it be hard for you isn't a reason not to do it. And everything you want is on the other side of that hard. It feels lousy and miserable to say no. And if you're somebody who's not used to saying no because you're a people pleaser, you're used to putting other people first, you're used to putting yourself last on the list, today's lesson is going to be tough for you. But the thing is you don't wait for saying no to feel better to say no. You don't talk yourself into it, get confident, figure it all out before you say no. Instead, what you do is you recognize it's going to feel bad for a little bit. It's going to feel bad until it starts to feel better. And usually it doesn't feel better until you're on the other side of the no. So when I turn friends down socially on the weekends because they'd like to see me or have me at their gathering, it doesn't feel good when I'm saying no. I kind of feel like a jerk. My husband and I are childless by choice. We don't have kids. We don't seem to have a lot of external responsibilities, so people don't always understand why we say no so regularly. But on that weekend, when I'm doing laundry at my pace, when I'm going to the grocery store at my pace, and I'm cooking a nice leisurely meal, that's when that no from the day before or a couple of days before starts to feel good, because I'm taking care of myself. My needs are getting met. And the darndest thing happens is when we put the oxygen mask on ourselves first, when we take care of ourselves first, we become infinitely better at everything. We're better partners, we're better family members, we're better friends, we're better community members. We're just easier to be around because we've taken care of ourselves first. When we don't do that, we're drained, our energy sapped, we're saying yes with resentment and bitterness. We're not wholehearted or present for the people that we care about, and suddenly things start to shift and filter away. So part of what your challenge is going to be when you decide what your goal is that you're going to have to be willing to protect it with the word no. It will never happen if you wait for your goal to be convenient for everybody else around you. Your goal won't happen until you put it on your list. And in order to do that, you got to start talking to the people who are important. And if you include them in the why, you let them know what it feels like to want this, why you want it, why you imagine things are going to be better for you on the other side, hopefully you'll get their support. If you don't, the shrink on this side of the screen is telling you there's something to look at in that relationship, and that's probably a conversation for another day. But the only way it works is if you start to try. So before we wrap this up, I want to give you one more tactical tip on how to say no. And I kind of stole this from my corporate days when I was a manager. One of the things that I used to have the hardest problem with, and I actually used to think that moms could probably relate to this too. So the moms on today's call will probably understand this. But like my name used to be said 1,000 times. Heather, I need to have the schedule fixed. Heather, I need this. Heather, I need that. And every time my name was said, someone else's need was immediately following it. And I would be trying so hard to solve one problem that I wouldn't be paying attention to how my solution affected another part of my job or another division in the program or somebody else. So one of the things that I got really good at, and that I've started to teach when I was doing counseling and now that I'm doing coaching, is the magic of the 24-hour rule. And think about this for a second, right? That if somebody asks you something and you don't say yes in the moment, but you simply let somebody know that you've got to think about it, and that you'll get back to them, it gives you time to slow yourself down, to talk back to the anxiety around disappointing somebody, to get really centered on how this request fits into your life, doesn't fit into your life, how it could work, how it might not work, and then you can get back to the person on your own schedule, and it puts you in charge of the decision. Sometimes that means you end up saying yes with wholehearted openness, enthusiasm, and sometimes it means you realize, like, no, I can't do it this time, but I could do it another time. I think sometimes one of the reasons why people say yes when they really wish they could say no is they get caught up in that bind of the immediate request because someone's asked right now, they need to answer right now. I want to push back a little bit on that with you guys, and I want to challenge you to just ask the person to wait for a bit. You can say, I have to check with my spouse. I don't know what my schedule is for the rest of the week. I have some things I'd hoped to get taken care of. Let me look at how it could all fit in and let me get back to you. But if you slow the request down, so you can stop and think and check in with yourself about the request, how it may or may not challenge your goals, how it does or doesn't fit into the life you want, how you want to move through the world, and how you want to live your life, then you'll be able to answer more succinctly, more confidently by putting yourself into the equation and including yourself on the list. It's not easy. Saying no kicks your butt. It's just something you got to get over, and if you want the life you want. And I know that you can do this. If you get stuck on how, if you have specific requests that you're feeling resentful about that you know you need to say no to, but you're not quite sure how to do it, let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you with a quick script. It's the best I can offer, but I really believe that everybody can have the big life they want. They can live boldly, daring, and be happy, but they just have to choose it. Thanks so much for joining me. Certainly let me know how Facebook Live worked out for you today on desktop. I'm not quite sure that I liked it. I found myself wanting to go back to the security blanket of the cell phone. But let me know what you think, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much. Happy New Year. Bye-bye, guys.